I don't know. It doesn't seem that weird to me. Just kind of a chaos gate. No music though. How's that song go? Do 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 do. Nah, I'm no good at. Oh well. Hey, it stopped. What if I just Oh, what the? Uh, guys? The axe icon religious figure butt muscles. He is a complex and fictional figure, and today we're going to be diving in a bit, seeing what we can figure out, what we can't figure out, and just how scrambled my notes are as we try to decipher a bit of this mystery of one of the first weird things coming out of the world, not directly the game .hack fragment, but this one sort of originating between the mail and the bulletin board. Stick around, this should be fun. So one of the first instances I find of Mr. Glutes posting on the board here is under the topic Best Enemy in the World, which those of you playing before the bulletin board system came online, you would probably recognize this text as the test message for the bulletin board. Perhaps those who go back to the Coldbird era might be able to give more insight than myself into it, as I believe that's when it was added in as a test post. If not, maybe they would have information as to when this appeared. But I don't believe it appeared as a post from Chris P. Glutes until its posting here on October 22nd. It says, in my opinion, it is Sled Dog, which if I believe in the original post was the title of the post. And then you had some, like, just quick sentence about it being a test post in the body of the message itself. But here you have him putting in Best Enemy in the World as the topic and throwing out, in my opinion, it is Sled Dog. If there's one thing that Glutes seems to be very passionate about, it's South America. He seems to have posted a 6-part missive on the subject, and if you look here, this is posted not long after we're into October 26th, but it you have 6 parts here posted in very, very almost seems like a textbook format here. It says the thing that characterizes the South American countries is their dependence. Economic dependence, political dependence, cultural dependence. First Spain, then England, and the United States. And it just goes on and on. I don't feel like going on and on myself, so we're just going to sort of skim over the high points here through the different posts. One thing that is interesting to note is that either Mr. Glutes is a phenomenally accurate and swift typer, or they're copy-pasting here, because these are only minutes apart, but very thought-out and coherent statements about the apparent development of a few cities like Buenos Aires only translates to a growing expansion of the great powers within South America. Seems to be deeply concerned with South American economics, which, hats off to him. We've all got our hobbies. Perhaps he's from a South American country. I can't tell you for sure. Miss Post 3 there, just sort of expounding on it myself, but going on here, at the time a third of the South American population did not know how to read or write. That is terrible news. That you just don't want to think about things like that. Knowledge is power, of course. Just moving through these South American posts, and it is strange how quickly he's putting up these statements with almost no regard to any sort of response. I don't think 3 minutes for a post like that is enough time to sit down and let people digest what you're saying, so either it's just thrown out for the sake of throwing things out there, or he was just just sort of copy pasting in the hopes that it would get some attention, and it did. Some people were even sort of expounding on who might be the man behind the curtain, if you will. Uh, who is behind this Chris P. Glutes character posting all of these things. And you go through this a bit, but South America would come up again in this saga. In fact, as soon as the guilds went online, it's not surprising to anybody following the little pattern we're showing here that the first guild listed would be El Pueblo Unido, which translates roughly to the People United, and as you could see here by this primitively translated guild page, my apologies again, I'm on an earlier version of the patch until my physical copy of Fragment comes in. But the founder's very clearly Chris P. Glutes, and we've jumped forward in time quite a bit to November 5th. As of the time of recording, this is the last known appearance I have of any sort of concrete activity from Mr. Glutes. I haven't been following super closely, just close enough to get some information out there. But there is a bit of a tie-in. Certainly using the Spanish language, which is spoken predominantly throughout most of the South American countries. It's a rather rudimentary guild. Most of the guilds are just sort of loose collections in Fragment. One thing of note is they had a guild shop up for a short while. It had a selection of grunty foods, and the unique thing about them is they were all free, and then all of a sudden they were all gone. Whether somebody bought them, whether the person who put them up brought them down real quick, or whether they were transferred only to guild members, I truly couldn't tell you. Perhaps if you're able to join El Pueblo Unido, you can perhaps give me an answer on this one. I would be fascinated to know, as I would for any concrete interactions with Mr. Glutes themselves in regards to this guild activity or some of the other activities he would bring up in the bulletin boards. So getting back to the boards here in a moment, we come upon a post by Mr. Glutes. This one backtracking to the 22nd, shortly after the best enemy in the world, when the idea of posting custom areas, a topic originally thrown up by Vector and quickly responded by Glutes, with the keywords for a server known as Cake Man's Biffle. As you could see here, we're starting to see some fancy little notations thrown in, as you've got the colors red and blue worked in, so the post is nice and organized and attention grabbing. And you've got 4 sets of keywords, A, B, and C, which I can only assume go to custom areas in this server. As you can tell, I'm being very vague about this and taking a very assumptory position. If assumptory is a word, let me know. Nah, don't. I'd rather live in doubt. The reason I'm taking this position, however, is because aside from maybe once, I don't recall this server ever being online. Indeed, I checked shortly before taping, which at this point was multiple hours ago because I keep messing up the takes. But it's not online. It hasn't been up recently. And just out of morbid curiosity, I think at one point I would like to run these keywords just to know where they lead to. It's very intriguing to see custom words to a server that's not up regularly. At least to me it is. Maybe somebody out there has run Cake Man's Biffle. Maybe they're the best keywords ever? Until we check. Who's to say? Here's another interesting post attributed to Chris P. Glutes, and I specifically say attributed because it just sort of doesn't ring true to some of the other things we've seen. Um, on the subject of favorite experience, this topic came up and was responded to very swiftly throughout the first few days the bulletin boards were up. On the 24th, which is in the middle of Glutes' sort of just flurry of posts on the bulletin board here, you have his thoughts on the favorite experience being, for me, it's the thrill of a successful login. Never gets old. Also never gets a lowercase letter. This is all in caps, which is very off-brand for Chris P. Glutes, unless he's talking about South America, which we've already established is so important a subject to him that it seems to have inspired his own guild. This was a very curious thing to me. But one thing it does seem to hold true is that whenever Chris P. Glutes posts on the bulletin board, it grabs a certain amount of interest. In fact, it seems to grab a certain amount of interest from specific players. So the first responder directly replying to Glutes' comment is a player named Mark Hunt. Went as carefully as possible on that pronunciation, and he's got the fully capitalized statement prefaced earlier, and he goes on to say, he concurs, Chris, a successful makes me feel all moist inside. We can derive several things from that we would rather not, so let's just take the high road here and congratulate whoever this person is on not being woefully dehydrated. One thing I am certain of is they just sort of missed the word login there. I believe they were talking about a successful login. But you have Mark Hunt here, again, directly responding to Chris P. Glutes' quote, and he would be followed up shortly thereafter by another player, My Schnitt, who pops in with, just the thought of a successful login with you, Chris, really gets me excited. We should exchange member addresses. And what they were going for there with that pound sign, for those of you of a certain age, hashtag for the rest, and the capital B, it seems to have a bit of a spacing anomaly there. They were trying to turn the words member addresses blue. However, it seems that the space that should be between member and addresses is between the pound sign and the letter B. Still very interesting that they would respond directly to Glutes and not only agree with him, but almost be in lockstep themselves in the manner and style in which they agree. Indeed, this would not be the first time they do that, or the last. In fact, getting back to our previous topic of the best enemy in the world, you would have My Schnitt shortly after responding to Glutes' inference that the sled dog is the best by saying, excellent choice, I expect no less from you, Lord Chris P. Glutes. So a certain amount of added reverence by this post, which is taking place on the 28th. Here a couple days have gone by. The missive on South America would have been published by now. She goes on to say, maybe, perhaps after we exchange our member addresses, we could fight one or possibly even an entire field of these together. And a little heart graphic at the end of it. Isn't that sweet? So she is clearly in agreement that the sled dog is the best enemy. And you're starting to see a bit more fondness from My Schnitt to Chris P. Glutes. And of course, wherever My would reply, you know Mark is not far behind. And we will see here in a moment his reply. It comes up and he says, "I agree, my lord, Chris P. Glutes," once again referring to him in a reverent form. "The sled dog is a remarkable enemy. If I may, however, the rockhead is also an enemy I am quite fond of, I must say. I hope this does not displease you." Interesting stance in the sense that this is the closest either of them seem to come to disagreeing with Chris P. Glutes at any time throughout my little haphazard investigation into this phenomenon here. But there you have it. They are at least all agreeing that the sled dog is a remarkable enemy and one to be feared. The devotion shown by Schnitt and Hunt would eventually find its way to a yellow-colored post on the board titled "Children of the Glutes," and this is indeed the introduction into a pseudo-religion. My Schnitt posts originally, "Greetings fellow BBS members and fellow children of the Glutes." They are at my Schnitt, a founding member of the Children of the Glutes, along with brother Mark Hunt. Their goal is simple, and here are the tenets of the Children of the Glutes, and you know you're in trouble right from the beginning because it said the 5 tenets of the Children of the Glutes. That is their 5-point philosophy, which is laid out in 6 steps. But we'll go through them here for the sake of due diligence and for the sake of making this last another couple minutes or so. Number 1 is to follow the teachings of Chris P. Glutes. We will get more into that later, but if you've been following along so far in the video, or perhaps if you've just jumped ahead to this point, that's by and large a deep concern for the economic dependence of South American countries and crispiness of one's glutes. To help those who are in need is number 2. Number 3 is to be kind to those around you. Number 4 is to never PK, which, I'll be honest, if you figure out how to do it in Fragment, it's probably worth doing at least once. It looks cool, it's strangely disjointed, and I believe I've seen a couple videos floating around where people have managed to off themselves, which is hilarious. But you probably shouldn't do it if you're looking to join the Children of the Glutes. Number 5 is not to modify one's PC. I can infer they mean player character by that. And I could further infer they mean an illegal modification, not such a thing as grabbing a new weapon or creating a character, but doing things outside of the game's bounds that may or may not make you an NPC of interest throughout several cutscenes in the IMOQ series. Moving to my favorite tenet, because it's the 6th out of 5, is to always remember to perform your daily squats to ensure your glutes are crispy. I'm going to assume that is a play on his name as Chris P. Glutes. Otherwise, I feel I would have to pronounce it as Trispy, and that just hurts my tongue. Seriously, I bit my tongue. But Crispy Glutes through daily squatting seems to be a very sound tenet to follow, even if it is the 6th out of 5. There you've got the tenets of the religion laid out, and once again, as soon as it's posted, Hunt is there on the scene to back up their fellow founding member in the Children of the Glutes Fellowship, I suppose. He goes on to say, "Wonderfully put, Mai. I hope others will flock to us and learn of the wonder that is Chris P. Glutes. It is an honor to be a follower of such an icon as himself." So we can now infer that at least the character is a male. Try to stay away from such inferences myself, as it's a video game, and basically this investigation is far more thought put into it than need be. If anyone does have any questions regarding the faith, please feel free to ask, he continues. We will welcome all with open arms. If anyone so wishes, we are also very open to sharing their personal member addresses with anyone who wishes for any, and it goes on to say, one-on-one questions. So by now I'm sure you've noticed that the very next topic after Hunt's reply says scam with question mark by CB7. Clearly questions were raised, and mostly due to the validity of a sudden pseudo-religion popping up in the bulletin boards of this game. Hunt, however, is at least true to his word. He's trying to diplomatically talk down the situation, explaining that they aren't doing this maliciously, and trying to welcome CB7 into the fold. Of course, more questions would ensue, specifically to the teachings of Crispy Glutes, to which Schnitt replies and just goes ahead and decides to lay things out further, sort of expounding on what they had posted earlier. Says the teachings of Crispy Glutes as they see them are to ensure that the glutes remain crispy and well maintained. We've already established that that is tenet number 6, but since this is also tenet number 1, that brings 6 back into the 5. I believe I just sort of found a backdoor into defining addition by subtraction. This can be achieved through daily squatting exercises, again staying consistent with our exercise regimen. However, this is only part of what they believe. They also hold the belief that everyone in the world should be kind to one another and work together to achieve great things, all while remembering to praise Crispy Glutes' name. So there's some sort of prayer requirement, at least inferred. But overall, it's your typical basic faith layout: be kind to one another. The physical fitness is an interesting twist on things. And it just... I'm sort of at a loss for words on this very subject, because I just realized I've been talking for all of this time about a fake faith in an RPG. And once again, this is our subject, Crispy Glutes. This is the guy of so much fascination. Who would have thought at the beginning of this video that by this point, by the 22-minute mark, a religion would be founded on him? Certainly not myself, and certainly not others within the community. So, shortly after the children of the Glutes are brought up, there's instantly a post by Ventus on the boards here, talking a bit about the followers of Crispy Glutes, and Ventus decides to poke the bear, shall we say, to antagonize a bit, hereby dubbing them as gluters and praying that they find joy in what they do to our Lord and Savior Bahamut. So Ventus, clearly professing a devotion to Bahamut, and publicly sort of calling out the children of the Glutes, giving them a nickname. Mark Hunt very quick to reply. Says he does not appreciate such a blasphemous term, so we're hitting heavy already in this reply. We are the children of the Glutes, not gluters. The only true Lord and Savior is Crispy Glutes. The others are false prophets, such as this so-called Bahamut, though we welcome you to learn more about the ways of Crispy Glutes. You have Kigo joining in, basically wondering if what he's seeing is some sort of fever dream. He says, "What did I just read? There's a religion now?" The plot continues to thicken, it seems. There's only one person who can take on the Glutes, it seems, and his name is Butt Rice. That is a GU reference to Ohm Rice, who has quite a presence on the forums in that game. series. My Schnitt, this time instead of Hunt, who took a more forceful tone, I'm assuming a little offended at the name Gluters more than anything. But Schnitt would go on to reply to Kigo in what's becoming a bit of a back and forth between the community and the children of the Glutes, saying what you read is simply the words of the devoted follower of the children of the Glutes. If you wish to enlighten yourself on our religion, place your attention towards the children of the Glutes BBS thread. It may contain the answers that you seek. That thread itself is becoming quite a bit of interest, and as this investigation goes on into further episodes, we will certainly be revisiting it. This, however, is where we are probably going to leave things for today. It goes on to say, do not let yourself succumb to folly and mistake this butt rice to be one of any match to the virtuous and magnificent crispy glutes. I don't know a better way to wrap this up, really. We started with butt puns, and we end with butt puns. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. A brief glimpse into the world of crispy glutes. We took a look at some of the things that came about when he started posting, his reputation seeming to grow to the point of being a deific figure to two followers, Mark Hunt and My Schnitt, the very pseudo-religion, the Children of the Glutes, and the early backlash it faced on the bulletin boards from members of the community, and a fair bit of controversy starting to drum up, as well as a potential server and guild related to the whole fiasco. Needless to say, this is only the tip of the iceberg, and there is more information out there. If you have any information, please feel free to share it in the comments below. For now, I'm just going to leave this video here. Thank you very much for watching, and hope you have a wonderful day.